Let's begin with President Biden's surprise decision to walk back his campaign trail promise and intercede on his son's behalf. On Sunday, Biden issued a statement confirming that he has pardoned Hunter on federal tax and gun charges. The pardon is broadly written to include any federal crime Hunter may have committed over a 10-year span from 2014 to the present. Biden also alluded to his previous pledge to not get involved in his son's legal issues, saying in part, quote, "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision." Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George joins me now live from Capitol Hill. Joe, this was always a possibility, but is it a surprise?
Well, I think much of Washington always knew that this was a possibility sometime between now and January 20th. One, President Biden's political career is over. Democrats lost the election for the White House, and the president loves his son. So was Washington on pardon watch? Yes. Was Washington on pardon watch the Sunday after Thanksgiving? Not necessarily. But this is controversial simply because of how many times President Biden said throughout 2024, whether asked at a press conference, whether asked in a gaggle with reporters, whether asked in interviews with network anchors, whether he would do this. And he repeatedly had the same answer. He repeatedly said that he would not pardon his son. One example is this from mid-June. Take a listen.
With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
And yet on Sunday night, we had the pardon, the President of the United States saying in part, "I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice." President Biden going on to say, "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision." As you might suspect, it's being met with criticism from across the political spectrum. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson posting on social media earlier this morning that trust in our justice system has been almost irreparably damaged by the Bidens and their use and abuse of it. Real reform cannot begin soon enough. The Democratic governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, posting on social media yesterday that he thought that President Biden put his family above the country. Although there are a number of Democratic lawyers who say that if Hunter Biden's last name wasn't Biden, if it was Hunter Smith, that he would never have been charged here. Again, the federal tax evasion sentencing, the gun case, the sentencing, those were set to take place in mid-December. That's now wiped out by all of this, as well as any other potential investigation that may have been launched under a Trump-appointed attorney general. This is a blanket pardon, Patrick, which means anything that happens over this near 11-year period would be covered, not just the tax evasion charges and not just this gun case, Patrick.
So, Joe, you're talking about some of the pushback we're already hearing, including from some Democrats, but really, can anybody do anything about this pardon power the president has? I understand it's pretty absolute.
Absolutely. When it comes to federal cases, remember, presidents don't have any authority when it comes to any state cases, but in this particular case, it was federal charges. The timing here, Patrick, is noteworthy, I think, also. While some may have speculated that a pardon may happen on January 20th in the morning, the final hours of a Biden presidency, we saw, for instance, former President Bill Clinton pardon his half-brother in the final hours of his administration many years ago. So not exactly unprecedented area here, pardoning a family member. But I think a lot of people were taken aback by it being the Sunday after the Thanksgiving. But it happened just a few hours before President Biden departed for Africa. That's noteworthy because on these big international trips, the press can be kept at an arm's length. The question will eventually be asked to him why he changed his mind. He'll eventually have to answer that. Additionally, the White House daily press briefing, different schedule, and different televised events, for instance, when the president is overseas. So interesting timing with it coming out on a Sunday. I do think, Patrick, that this is maybe the beginning of what will be several mornings of us reporting on presidential pardons, whether in the remaining days of the Biden administration or in the incoming Trump administration. Remember, President-elect Donald Trump has talked about potentially pardoning January 6th rioters, many of whom sit in federal custody as we speak. But these presidential pardons, you are correct, are absolute. Hunter Biden is free. He will not go to jail for those tax crimes as well as for the gun charges.
And you also have to wonder, would this have been different if Kamala Harris had won? Did the calculation change in the president's mind, President Biden, when Trump won? I guess there's really no way to know that yet.
Well, I do think that's why much of Washington wasn't necessarily shocked by this. President Biden's, as we noted, his political career is over. The Democrats have lost the White House. And of course, President Biden loves his son.
And I understand they spent Thanksgiving together as well this weekend, so that would have been an interesting room to be a fly on the wall there. Yeah. It's like, so Dad, are you gonna give me that pardon or not? So anyway, Deputy Political Director Joe St. George live for us on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much.